Evening. Good evening and happy Monday. Happy Monday. It is the start of a new week for so many of our students across the country. They are back in school, some actually in the school, others are learning virtually. Teachers are instructing from their homes, some of them are instructing from the school as well as some actually in the classroom or doing it virtually, but from school. There's so much going on right now. I just want to say thank you so much to all of the viewers catching our broadcast tonight. Thank you so much for hanging out with the Angela Ray Show. I certainly appreciate your support. This is the start of a new week and the start of a new series. This week's series is called Living My Best Life, all about looking at leadership from a different point of view. I'm kicking off this series in collaboration and partnership with the book Megastar Student Leadership. Lessons I learned as an actress that can help you lead, achieve, and succeed. We are making the move over to Amazon. So I thought a great way to really tackle leadership is to look at leaders from various fields. And so tonight I have a financial guru on as my first guest. Of course, we always get it started at the Angela Ray Show with our Ray of Motivation moment. And for tonight's Ray of Motivation moment, I just want to remind you, oh, and something I forgot. Shout out to everyone who is catching the broadcast tonight on Periscope and over on Twitter. This is my 76th episode, and tonight, for the first time, we are also broadcasting out to viewers on Periscope as well as Twitter. So if you are catching us over there, thank you so much for tuning in to the Angela Ray Show. And for tonight's Ray of Motivation moment, I actually got this from Michelle Rice. And she shared this quote some time back, and I was like, oh, I felt that in my spirit. And it simply reads, stop claiming routine as your truth. Stop claiming routine as your truth. You know, sometimes we just get in the habit of doing things. It just may be because that's the way our parents or our grandparents did it. Maybe someone along the way, a teacher, a neighbor showed us how to do things. Or sometimes we just get in a rut. We start something, maybe it's a job. Maybe it's a volunteer opportunity, but we just kind of get in a rut and we're just doing it because it's routine. It's easy. You know, it's one of those things of, you know, especially when I think about cooking, because I love to cook. I am definitely a self-proclaimed foodie. There are some things that I've just always done when it comes to food. And every now and then I just decide, you know, I want to switch it up a little bit. So I just want to encourage you to make sure that you know that every single routine is actually truth for you. Just because someone shared it with you doesn't mean you're not supposed to do it. This isn't a part of your life. But so often we just get trapped and we get comfortable with habits that become our routine that either A, were never our truth, or B, because we have grown, developed, they're no longer the truth for us anymore. So that is your Ray of Motivation moment for this Monday edition of the Angela Ray Show. Well, as I said tonight, I'm really excited to have this on. He is an 8-year veteran of the United States Marine Corps. And of course, we thank him for his service to our country. He attended the University of Alabama. We might have to have a conversation about football. In addition to that, he is the author of Spend Everything. It's a great book on finances. I actually have a copy of that book myself. And he is the founder of Alliance Financial Ministries. And I am really excited to have him on the show on tonight. So please help me welcome Lonnie Mathews. Lonnie, thank you so much for being on the Angela Ray Show tonight.
Thank you for having me, Angela.
Well, I know we were discussing this before we started the broadcast tonight. It seems like we might have a little bit of delay, but we're still going to make this do what it do. So, of course, I got to know, what have you been up to during the time of the pandemic? For many people, some people didn't have any time off, and others have just gone back to work in the last month or so. But what did you do during the downtime that most people had?
Well, I just took a break like the whole nation did. And during that time period, I was just really kind of looking at, how am I going to change things going forward? We came up with some online things that we could do. In fact, we've been doing them all summer. Started a YouTube channel because people were asking questions, and it was always something that I've been wanting to do. So that was pretty much it.
All right. So you have a nonprofit organization where you teach people about finances. Talk a little bit about what you do as the executive director and founder.
Oh, okay. We've been around since 2002, and the organization came about because of some of my own past financial mistakes. Me and my wife, and when I'll be happy to share that with your audience. But we have adult programs. So our business model is we partner with organizations that want to bring in financial literacy. So we work with a lot of churches here in the Houston area to do workshops. We also do lunch and learns with some of the corporate clients as well. And then recently, in the last 12 years, we've had some youth programs kick off. We got out school programs, just a whole lot of things geared toward financial literacy.
Now, you mentioned you took some downtime before getting some online programs up and running. But with this pandemic, so many people are facing uncertain economic times. What advice would you offer to people who really need to take charge of their finances right now?
Okay, and in fact, that was one of the first videos that I put up on YouTube. My pastor was like, "Hey, Mathews, I need you to do something for the people." I'm like, "Oh, okay, Pastor, I'll put something together." And so here's what I said in that particular video. The first thing would be if you're dealing with some uncertainty, which a lot of people are, I would say first thing do is take a deep breath, right, and just
Hmm.
try to get your composure back. This is certainly something that's very unusual. Probably won't happen again for the next 100 years. Let's hope not anyway. So first thing, just take a deep breath. And then the second thing would be if you're having problems meeting your financial obligations, go ahead and contact creditors. They don't know you're not paying your bills because you don't have the money. They may just assume you're just not choosing not to pay. And a lot of them have programs now that they're trying to work with you. Trust me, they rather work with you and have you not pay. So step two is just go ahead and contact your creditors if you're having trouble meeting obligations. But for some people, maybe you're saying, "Hey, listen, I'm doing good. I'm still working, just working from home. What are some things I could be doing?" And so this would be a good time to really just reorganize your finances. And what that looks like would be, for us, my wife and I, we kind of sat down during this pandemic and was like, you know what? Have we updated our wills? And so we kind of looked at that. Let's go through our insurance, make sure we have enough, or is some policies expiring? Let's do our net worth statement. Let's figure out where we are financially, just things like that. And then take a real good look at your expenses. If you're having trouble meeting your financial obligations, then you already know, hey, listen, I got to start cutting some stuff out. I ain't been to the gym in months. Do I really need this gym membership? So just things like that you definitely want to start doing today, sooner rather than later.
Okay. Now, I have known you for a number of years, and while finances is it's a very serious topic. I mean, there are people who have not managed their finances well, and it has been a source of great pain. But I also know you to be a funny person, a funny man. Do you ever kind of, when you're talking about finances, do you bridge the gap with humor so that people can know that you're not just someone who's always had it together, and you can't understand their pain?
Right. Yeah, no, absolutely. I tell people that, I have very strong opinions about the things that I believe in. And it's not because I read this stuff in a book somewhere. I lived it. If there's a dumb thing that could be done with money, trust me, I've done it. They say those three brothers that always hang together. And I was just talking to my daughter about them. There's broke, desperate, and dumb. I hung with those guys in my 20s for a long time. Broke, desperate, and dumb. They
Okay.
right there when I bought my first car. It didn't go so well.
So you kind of mentioned this a little bit. You said like there may be some people who are working from home, but they haven't necessarily been negatively impacted. How can those people, or maybe even some people, maybe their industry is one of those essential industries and they've actually made more money during this time? How can they still take charge of their finances? What are some things that they should do?
Okay, that's a great question, and there are a lot of people like that. In fact, my oldest daughter, she's one of those individuals. I don't know if she's going to appreciate me putting her on blast here on social media, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Um, she's a college student, working part time and living here with us. And when she got laid off, she's been able to apply for unemployment. And honestly, she's making more money than she was when she was working. So for those people that have not been negatively impacted, it's even more important that you look at your finances. And the one thing that I would say to is, number one, make sure you got some money saved, because it's not going to always be this way. Told my daughter that.
Mhm.
And then number two, go ahead and pay down some debt. But
Mm,
because by paying down some debt, you're freeing up future dollars. So here's what I tell people when it comes to debt. Debt represents some past decision that you made to obligate your future income. So if I signed a note 2 years ago to pay $200 a month, I'm obligating $200 of money that I have not earned. And so what
right.
happens is, when you find yourself in a space where you got so much debt and it's really affecting my here and now, what has happened is your past is now haunting your present. And if you don't do something consciously to change it, you're going to end up jeopardizing your future. So if you have some money now, just look at some, can I pay off this Macy's card, at least free up this $25 a month that I'm normally paying them? That's $25 into my budget that I didn't have.
So you just said the B word, budget. Talk a little bit about the importance of a budget, because I have often heard people say, I don't make enough money to have a budget. So, talk a little bit about budgeting.
Yeah, what, that we all should budget. I mean, even wealthy people budget. I would argue they're wealthy because they were budgeting, because they had a very good picture of where their money was going. So I think a lot of times people get the wrong impression of what a budget is, and it has this negative connotation. It's like, oh, if I budget, I can't spend. Well, guess who's creating the budget? You are, right? It's your money. The only thing you're doing is having a plan for the money before it gets into your life. So if payday is Friday, then by Wednesday, you should sit down, grab a notepad and a pencil and a calculator, and just start sketching out, these obligations I know I have to take care of this payday. And so you don't stop there. You go on to say, okay, with the money that's left over, what's my plan? Now, did I say don't go eat out? No, I didn't say that. I mean, realistically, if you look at your bank statement for the last 2 months and you've been eating out pretty regularly, then let's just go ahead and put that down in the budget. And now, unless you're going to make a conscious effort to say, okay, I did spend more than I should have, maybe I could lower that dollar amount, but then be okay with that, right? I didn't say don't eat out. I never said that. It was just like, just write it down and stick to it. But it's your money, and you're in control of the budget. Don't let the budget be the boss of you. You're the boss of the budget.
So I have another question for you. So working class families, there's the middle class, and oftentimes when there is a recession, the middle class is hit. Working class people, what if there are people in the working class who want to begin to build wealth? How do they do that? How do they get started?
um, I would say this, and it's funny because I read this book probably maybe 7, 8 years ago. It's called The Richest Man in Babylon. And honestly, it was
Mm,
a very impactful book, because they asked the richest man in Babylon during the time when Babylon was a great society, how did you become so rich? And he said something that was so simple, it just blew my mind. And to this day, I'm still just, every time I think about it, he simply said this. He says, I learned early on that a tenth of all that I earn is mine to keep. And that tenth is now my employees, and that money's job is to work for me. So 10%. Now, stay with me here for those who are listening, because this is where my mind got blown because I like math. I'm a numbers guy. So I got to thinking, okay, 10% of all that I earn. So if I bring home $1,100 every 2 weeks, I'm just picking numbers. That's like $110. Um, but what really got me was when you go 10 equals one, 10 tenths equals one. So if I save 10% in 10 paydays, I would have saved the equivalent of an entire paycheck. And when I thought about that, and I was thinking, what have I been doing with my life all these years? So I'm saying that to say, if you, even if you're working class, you have got to get to the point where you can consistently save 10% of your income. Now, maybe it seems a little bit impossible now because you've stretched yourself so thin and you've gotten all these bills. But so the first goal would be to let's get some of these bills out of my life, get some of this debt down. So now I can start saving 10%. Even if you can do 2%, it's about the habit. They say that your success is nothing more than the habits that you create, the people you meet, and the books that you read. So start the habit, even if you can do 2%. Now, when you get to 10% and you're saving that regularly, think about it. It's 26 paydays in a year. So you're saving at least 2 paychecks a year just by saving 10%. When that money builds up, now you're in a position to invest that money. Now you're in a position to put that money to work to start building some real wealth. There is no investing without saving.
Well, that really goes really well with our first question from one of our viewers, Edwin Evans. He's one of our loyal viewers here at the Angela Ray Show. Can you see that question on the screen, Lonnie?
Yeah, which business should you invest in? Well, thanks for asking that. Well, now, first of all, let me just say, I'm not a financial advisor anymore. I used to be licensed, but I'm not. So I kind of
Why they take your license though? Why they take your license?
no, they didn't take them. I was a horrible salesman. I suck at selling. I'm gonna be honest with you. I could talk to you all day about how investments work. I could explain to you and get you excited. But if you didn't buy, like, look, man, I'm not gonna keep coming over here. I came over. We done talked about it. I mean, if you don't want to do it, I got to move on. So I just suck at selling. I'm really good at teaching and speaking about it. But for me, I'm looking at putting things like I like the whole 5G. I think that's where that next big industry is the 5G. Like people like Verizon and all the ancillary companies. That's just me personally. But anybody that's jumping on, you got to be careful with people that's on the come up now because of Corona, because once all this is over, how they're going to sustain themselves, right? So you still want to look at some solid, stable companies that's been around a while that just happen to be benefit from this. But I'm looking at the 5G industry. Any type of investment that's paying me dividends right now is what I'm looking to do, because I don't need the income, so I just want to go ahead and just let the dividends come in, and I can start transitioning to.
Oh, we lost you a little bit. Well, the last thing we heard you say, Lonnie, is that you wanted the dividends to come in so you can start transitioning. If you are still there, you know what? We're gonna take Lonnie off for just a second, see if we can bring him back on, see if his connection gets a little bit better. Of course, just what he was saying, these are very interesting times with so many people being on the World Wide Web in the evenings. Parents are home and students are doing homework. And yeah, it looks like he is still frozen, so we're going to bring him back on in just a moment. So, as I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, this is a brand new series, Leading My Best Life. And one of the things that I had to learn as I got out of college was thinking about leadership in a different way, mainly because I'd often looked at leadership as being about titles. If someone is the president of an organization, if someone is the president of a bank or a club, if someone is the vice president, if someone is in charge. But that is a very elementary definition and perspective on leadership. And that was one of the things that really started to help me formulate the ideas to create my book, Megastar Student Leadership. But again, throughout this week, I'm really excited that we're going to have so many awesome some people who are leaders in their respective industries. So, like, we have Lonnie back on the line. So, we're going to bring him back in because he is the leader when it comes to financial information. All right, Lonnie, we got you back.
I
So,
have no idea what happened there. I don't.
no, it's okay. As I have been watching so many broadcast television shows, not just shows that are online, I mentioned this more than one time. I've watched The View, and some of their hosts have the same exact challenge you just had. So we don't have the setup that The View has. So if this happens to us, we are definitely okay. But you were in the middle of answering Edwin's question about investments, and you were basically saying you were looking at things that were steady and you wanted some things that could bring you dividends now so that you could transition that money. And that's when we got a little bit of the frozen. So I wanted to make sure that we got all of that information from you.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Yeah, I mean, so I'm at the point in my life. I just turned 53, so I'm thinking, in the next 7 years or so, brother, be 60. So I mean, at that point, you want to kind of transition to, hey, working less and then having some investments that are paying me some money to supplement my income. So anything like dividend stocks that'll do that, rental income, and I even have been toying with the idea of starting a franchise, and that's something that my daughters could possibly run, and that I could pass down to them. So we're looking at all of those possibilities right now.
Okay. And so we got another question from Edwin.
What is my biggest financial mistake, and what did I learn from that experience? Okay, good question, Edwin. There are so many mistakes. Remember the most, and that was when I was just got in the Marine Corps. I wanted a car so bad, and so I'm living on base. I couldn't go out and hang out with my friends, so I had saved about $1,500 to get a car. I went to the car dealership, and they were like, "Well, man, you need about $3,500, maybe $4,000 to get this car because you don't have a lot of credit." So that's when I was hanging out with what did I say? Broke, dumb, and desperate. All three of us went out to the car dealership together. And so Broke and Dumb was like, "Yo, man, you want this car? Let's just get this." So I go back on base and I go to the credit union and I take a $3,000 loan out, and I put the 3,000 with my 1,500, go back to the car dealership now, and I put the money down to buy the car. So now you might be saying, well, what is wrong with that, other than the fact that I had two car notes on one car, right? And so by the time I got the loan payment back, the car note, and the insurance, in the military as an E2, you don't make a lot of money. So I was so broke, I couldn't go anywhere anyways. But now I got all these bills because I got this card and I can't go anywhere. So that was probably the most impactful thing that I can remember. And I just remember not having anybody to talk to and just going through that process because I just, like I said, broke, dumb, and desperate was hanging right there with me, telling me, "Go ahead, man, you can do it. You can do it."
Definitely. Definitely. So, you were just talking about one of the biggest mistakes that you made. What would you say, from your perspective, is one of the biggest mistakes you see most people make? What is the thing that you have seen over and over in your work?
Debt, way too much debt. Um, and we were no different. I remember when in February 2001, when our house of cards finally fell. My wife and I were first generation college graduates. And I would say we moved out here, our bring home pay after taxes. I remember that from 97 to 2000 was every bit of about $9,000 a month between the two of us. My wife's an engineer. I was a financial advisor at the time. But we brought in our baggage. We brought in our poor money management skills and the poverty mindset. And so we just loaded up on debt. With anything that we wanted, we went out and got it. And so it wasn't that we couldn't afford it, right? It was like, when I say poverty mindset, what I mean is when we were poor, because we both were poor, when you're poor, you don't make enough money to pay everything and have any money left over. So no one wants to go to work and then to come home and pay your whole paycheck and still have nothing. So what you tend to do is, I'm going to enjoy some of this money and I'm just going to pay what I can, right? I mean, that's poverty mindset, right? And so when we got to the point where we were making enough money to pay all of our bills and have money left over, it didn't feel right, right? We were so used to struggling that we subconsciously created an environment to where we had to struggle because we didn't know how to operate with having money left over. Like we had enough money to pay our bills and still do some of the stuff we wanted. But because we had so much money left over, we just thought we need more bills. So we would go out and get bills. It was like we got a timeshare here in Texas, like on the outskirts of Houston. Why would I pay for a vacation timeshare in Texas? Like who vacations in your home state? But we did. Why? Because we could afford the $278 a month payment that they was asking us for. You know, you go on trips that you can't afford with your broke friends. So, you know, hey, we're going to Aruba, just put on a credit card. We'll figure it out later, right? So it's that poverty mindset, it's that thinking, and you just got to get out of this whole business of being in debt. Because like I said, your past is going to haunt your present. And if you don't stop it, it's going to jeopardize your future. And pretty soon you'll be in a position like we were to where, yeah, we was bringing home $9,000 a month, but we had gotten so much debt that we was basically just giving it back out as soon as it came in. So, and so we weren't satisfied till we was living check to check because that's what we knew.
Wow.
We knew check to check. I don't know paying my bills and still having a couple $1,000s left over. I didn't know what to do with that.
Do you think that is that what some people say is similar to the lottery winners kind of fate? Because we see so many people who are fortunate, they win the lottery, and unfortunately, the money is either gone very quickly, or it seems that those people don't live very long after they win the lottery.
They don't. It's average 2.5 to 3 years time frame where those people are going to be back right where they were. Because think about it, nothing changed for those individuals, just like us. I mean, we just had bigger bills, right? We got more income, but translated to bigger bills. You know, we didn't sit down and change our mind, right? So, you know, Les Brown, great motivational speaker, said that in order to change any aspect of your life, you have to become a different person. You can't be the same person that you was before when you didn't have money. And then all of a sudden now I got $1 million, right? I don't know what to do with that. So I'm just going to buy stuff, right? You have to get used to the idea of having money. And I shared this with a friend of mine that I was kind of talking to and mentoring. And so it's one of those things that'll hit you and you'll know it when it hits you because it hit him. I remember being in the mall, being broke and saying to myself, man, when I get some money, I'm going to come in here and get this, and this. Who among us, right?
Right. Absolutely.
But now I can go to the mall and there isn't a whole lot. I'm just like, I just don't see anything that I want bad enough to spend my money on, right? You have to get used to the idea of having money. And my friend called me one day. He's like, big bro, man, I think I just got it. He's like, I'm at the mall right now. I got money in my account and I just don't see anything in here I want. I said, you finally got it.
Wow. That's amazing. Changing the mind. Hey, Cassandra Jolliffe. Cassandra Jolliffe is one of my fellow hosts in the industry. We got one more question before we wrap up for the evening from Edwin.
Okay, yeah, Edwin, there are several ways that the average income, when you say generational wealth, there are a lot of different ways to approach that. Number one way I would be if you really want to pass on some legacy and some generational wealth. I'm not an insurance salesman, but the truth is we're all born, we're all going to die. The question is, what am I going to leave my kids, right? Insurance is transferable and it's a non-taxed event. So if I have a $500,000 policy on me, when I die and I leave that to my kids, they get the full $500,000 and the government does not get any portion of that for tax purposes. So that's one simple way. And insurance is, you know, it's just one of those things that's not sexy. I don't want to deal with it because it deals with death, but I spend money on anything else. And you know, if me and my wife can go out and spend $80 on a meal, you mean to tell me mean, I can't have a $50 policy where I'm going to leave, right, at some point. And I hope to live a long time. But that's one simple, easy way to pass on generational wealth. Now, but you got to also teach your kids and help them understand. So, because if they get this $250,000 and you have not taught them and their mindset is not anywhere near to handle that, it's just going to be all for naught.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yes, definitely. Awesome. Well, you can connect with Lonnie online on his website at financialministries.org. I think I mentioned at the top of the broadcast, he also has a book called Spend Everything. And in addition to having his nonprofit organization, and even though you didn't see a lot of his comedic skills tonight on the broadcast, he was talking about money. He's actually a pretty funny dude. I've seen him do some stand up as well. So
I mean, I can't. I didn't want to do your audience like that. They're like, "Who is this dude?" I thought he was supposed to be a professional, a PR professional.
yeah. Well, Lonnie, thank you so much for taking time out of your schedule to hang out with us tonight at the Angela Ray Show, and enjoy the rest of your evening. Oh,
Yeah, thanks for having me. I enjoyed it, and good luck to everyone out there that's listening.
okay. Have a good night. All right, that is it for this Monday edition of the Angela. As always, I would like to remind you of Ray of Motivation number 54. Cleaning a mirror does not change the person who is reflected in it. Until next time, I encourage you to go out and be the change. Have a great evening.